Alright, hello everyone, and welcome back to an episode debrief, a format that I started last year where I go through your comments from previous videos, see where people had questions, add some more context, respond to some of your comments, answer a lot of your questions, all that good stuff. This is not taking the place of a regular Friday video. We will have a normal action-packed renovation hands-on video on Friday as always, so please join me for that. This is just a fun little bonus, so grab your crafting project of choice, grab your pet of choice, grab your drink of choice, and settle in for a quick renovation debrief. So the first comment that I got a lot of is several people mentioning that it looked like there had been some sort of fire in the wall, and I'm guessing it's just based on the way that the wood looked, and there was no fire at all. The wood looks like this because it's called cuboidal cracking. It's a pretty trademark indicator of dry rot, which is a fungal infection that causes the timber to dry, it shrinks, and it breaks into these really brittle cube-shaped pieces. So no fire, just dry rot. The reason it looked so dark is also because some of the wood was actively wet. Some of the wood was just quite dark from regular damage, but there are absolutely no signs of a fire anywhere in the past. Just good old dry rot, which, yes, Jim, is in fact a real thing. Google it. Next up, the mystery of the extra wood. So I posed the question in the video, just wondering what exactly this little extra bit of wood that appeared to be sheathing wood might have been, and I got a lot of people in the comments who suggested, hypothesized, implied, or occasionally insisted that the entryway was an add-on and that those boards were the leftover from the original exterior sheathing, and then they got cut to make room for the entryway when it was added on later in the house's history. This is a really good guess, clever sleuthing from everybody who suggested it, and in certain circumstances it actually could very well be the right answer. However, I can conclusively say that this is not the case in my specific situation. The entryway was always an original part of the building, and I can say that with such conviction for many reasons, but the reason that I will go into at the moment is because the entryway is included in the footprint of the original foundation. That's the hole that Phil is standing in right here. The entryway is directly above it, and as you can see, the foundation bumps out accordingly to support the entryway in the same way that it also bumps out to support the bay windows on either side of the house. So these were all original features of the house. Might it have changed shape over the course of history? Possibly. However, I would suggest that this probably was not purely just an open to the elements porch. One, because of the climate that we live in. Two, because of the rooms that were directly above it. In a similar vein, I had a lot of questions about whether the openings on the side of the entryway could have been for the doors originally rather than big giant windows. First of all, I would remind you that when I bought the place, there was a wood window already in the other side, the side that currently has all of the insulation in it, the nice insulation. There was a wood window there when I bought the place, when we moved into it. Now, was this wood window original to the house? I cannot guarantee anything because it was in such bad shape, and also because the glass holding it was not the original wavy glass. That would have absolutely confirmed it was the original window. I will say it was giant. It was very close to the same size as the rest of the windows on the rest of the house, so it's possible, but not entirely sure. But I will say is that you don't frame out doorways like this. So this piece of wood here on the bottom, that is original wood. So that is original to the rest of the structure of the house. And you don't put sills under doors because you have to walk through them. That is a tripping hazard. So this is framed out very much like it would have been had a window there, or perhaps a whole window insert where it was a window and then a nice fancy bit of trim underneath it that was all kind of one unit. I will just say that we will learn more about the look of the original entryway in future episodes, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Then I had something that I wanted to address because there were a few people who were sort of bemoaning the previous renovations that caused this and saying like, oh, why didn't they do it right? Blaming maybe a really cheap landlord or a shoddy contractor, things like that. And while that is certainly possible, for sure, I have no way to say it's not. I would like to try and extend some grace here and just remind everyone that like the vast majority of people have good intentions, and that house envelopes are kind of complicated. They have to take into account the entire house. Like, it is a whole house-wide structure, and not everybody understands the details of how they work, why we do the things we do, and why different climates need different types of house envelopes. There are multiple ways to do it right, and there are infinite ways to do it wrong. And I think it's quite rare that people go into these sort of repairs or DIY projects thinking like, oh, let me do such a crappy job that decades from now it's going to potentially ruin the house. Like, I think it's quite rare that there's ever malice, and that it's more often just a completely innocent lack of knowledge. And obviously that can still cause a lot of damage, for sure. But I do think we should like extend some grace and perhaps just assume that the person or people who did this had good intentions, but just didn't fully understand what they were doing. They were putting a vapor barrier on because they were told that's the way they should do it. Or quite honestly, because a lot of code in a lot of places requires you to do it at the detriment often of the structure of the house. This is actually like a big thing in the old house sphere. There's a lot of discussion about this, about trying to change codes to acknowledge that not all houses should have vapor barriers. Like I said, it's a complicated question, and it's a lot of information to understand, and a lot of people just fully don't understand it. They just hear, oh, you should use vapor barriers, and they think they're doing the right thing by putting up vapor barriers. So let's just keep that in mind going forward. There doesn't seem to be any evidence of malice or cheaping out or bad intentions. I think it was genuinely somebody who wanted to do a good repair and wanted to be warmer, which is something I think we can all relate to if you live in a northern climate, and just accidentally did the wrong thing. And now the house is paying the price, and it's our job to remedy it. Then we've got a quick fire round. So file not found says temperature-o-vision, but we did need smell-o-vision to see if that candle assessment was accurate. Tess writes, Phil popping the filters onto your mask reminded me of when they put new tires on a race car. That one made me giggle pretty hard, as did Tinker Toot, who wrote that the ceiling tiles look like unique artwork. Totally agree. It's like some sort of renovation Rorschach test. Sabrina Apollo says the signs in Canadian Tire should read, please ask for assistance for products on top shelves. Unless you are a circus performer, then carry on. Then lastly, just a couple of comments. I get these basically every week from people saying that they think I should have just demolished the house and started fresh because there's something wrong in every part of it. It's just falling apart. It's all the rotten wood. It needs so much work. And I think there's two things that need to be kept in mind. First of all is that places of the house that don't need work just aren't going to get shown on camera, that there are so many parts of the house that are in really good shape that don't need work, and therefore they're just not shown on screen. Because what am I going to do? Like, walk around the house being like, this is great, this looks fantastic, well, no work needed here. Like, that's not a video. So that is one thing to bear in mind. And the other thing to bear in mind is that these houses were built for maintenance and repair, and when they don't get maintenance and repair, then they fall into disrepair, and then that compounds and that builds up. But the house is still standing. It's still in great shape. It was built with quality materials and quality construction techniques, and it's just a lack of maintenance, or in some cases, as we've seen here, some unfortunate renovations that maybe don't take into consideration the full extent of how they're affecting the house and the system that is the house, that have obviously brought it into a state of disrepair. But they were meant for maintenance, and that means that they can be repaired. And instead of demolishing the house, which is something that you might legitimately have to do with a modern build where the construction materials are just so cheap that there isn't really any salvaging them, this is high quality lumber, and it is a house that has intrinsic value to a certain percentage of the population simply because it is a century house. It's over 100 years old. It has seen some stuff. It is emblematic of the time in which it was built. So that has intrinsic value to people, even if it doesn't necessarily have financial value, although my real estate agent and I would also argue that it also has financial value, but that is beside the point. So yeah, let's just here's to restoring things and repairing them rather than throwing them away. That's not something that I stand for. It's not something that I believe in, from clothes all the way up to houses. So here's to 2026 and repairing more things than we throw away. And on that note, that will do it for this video. Thank you so much for joining me, and be sure to come back on Friday for an action-packed renovation episode. That's always going to be a good time. Bye! In fact, if the contractor had cheaped out, he probably just wouldn't have used vapor barrier at all, and then actually that would have been better in the long run, but let's not get into the weeds on it.